Hello and welcome back everybody to The Walking Dead. So, last episode we encountered zombie Uliana, and I have the feeling that going along the road won't get us to any destination. I feel like it's going to be the mines once again. Probably, at least. In a few minutes we were standing at the bus stop. The city is that way. Masha gestured at the horizon. Where is Lena? I don't like when I don't see Lena. Just saying. It was there the day before yesterday. I grinned. Yeah, that way. Router confirmed. We paused in silence for a few moments and then slowly headed off towards our destination. Okay, let's just assume Lena was there. The summer sun was unbearably scorching, making the asphalt melt. Everything a few hundred feet away, the road, the trees, the grass, the sky, was melting in a bright heat haze that looked more like a burning fog. I was streaming with sweat and was starting to think that I was getting sunstroke. Sure, it would have been a great idea to bring more water with us, but back when we were only thing we could think of was getting our asses as far as possible from the damned camp. But you were in the canteen. You could have at least thought so far. Oh well. Eventually, I felt like I was about to lose consciousness. Only the wretched trills of the grasshoppers kept me in touch with reality. Of course. This hellish noon is indeed their favorite part of the day. They couldn't care less about the scorching heat, zero humidity, or the lack of any kind of air movement. On the contrary, they felt great. It was the perfect backdrop for the final act of their last apocalyptic symphony. We probably should have stayed in the camp after all. Or at least we should have started this hike later, closer to the evening. Although wandering to the unknown country road at night is hardly a good idea either. The sound of a stifled cry came from behind me. 100 feet away, Alisa was barely holding up Lena, keeping her from collapsing to the ground. I dashed up to them. What's the matter? She has fainted. I helped to carry Lena to the roadside. Let her lying there. I don't trust this lady. There was at least some shade from a small grove. You don't need a small grove, you now need a small grave. Dig her in. I'm all for it. This is not normal. Nobody will blame you. Bury her alive. Or zombie alive. I don't trust her one bit. And that concludes our hike, said Masha in a gloomy mood, sinking down to the grass. I warned you. Fine, but what does it change now? We had been traveling for at least a couple of hours, so thinking of heading back to the camp was pointless. Well, at least until the evening, when the heat will decrease a bit. And we still haven't seen a single car. I turned around and looked at Router. He pulled off his shirt and began to wring the sweat out of it. Alisa was trying to revive Lena. If that is a sunstroke... Stop! She shouted at me. If that is indeed a sunstroke, we've gotten ourselves in deep trouble. She won't make it anywhere. It's a sunstroke. Put her under a tree? Give her, I don't know, somewhere you will find water and then everything is good. It's not like the sun fell on top of her head or something. I walked towards the road, shielded my eyes from the sun with my hand and stared into distance. Nothing but the same asphalt thread leading beyond the horizon, with no signs of civilization, or any signs of human presence at all. It was like we were the only people left, not only in the camp, but in the whole world. Though if you think about that, about what has happened before, it is really not a big surprise. I went back to the others and sat down on the log. I guess we have to scout ahead. I looked at Router. To check what is ahead. Maybe we could find something, and you just stay here for a while. But she can't go anywhere right now anyway. Lena was lying with her eyes closed and gasping for air. Okay, go ahead, said Masha calmly. It just occurred to me that I'd planned to have a talk with her. But it's definitely not the time for that now. Well, when is it the time then? She crazy as well, dude. Let's go. Router shrugged his shoulders and followed me. Hopefully they're still there when you come back. We kept walking for about 15 minutes. The girls were left far behind. What do you think? Any chance of us meeting somebody? He asked quietly. I don't know. I replied, I replied in an annoyed tone. I really wanted to refrain from talking now. The endless fields stretched to the horizon, sparsely sprinkled with patches of trees and hills. The landscape looked so typical and tranquil that, in fact, it caused anxiety. If we'd found ourselves on the plains of hell, at least we would expect to be attacked from just anywhere, so we could brace ourselves and prepare for the worst. Now we felt just like little droplets of paint on the canvas of a nameless painter who paints the summer in central Russia. Or wherever we are now. All this only made our fear stronger. "Look!" yelled Router. I narrowed my eyes and saw that the road took a turn. "So, what's so special? There must be something there." "What makes you think that?" "Well, since there's a turn, we've been walking straight forward all the time and now..." "Okay." Do I hear background noises or am I imagining that? Okay, let's go and take a look. Ah, yeah. That was what the strange pioneer, the doppelganger Semyon, told him, wasn't it? Yeah, I think if you go the road, or was it that he collapsed and woke up again at Sovietgames? Well, at least it makes sense that they are back here. In a few minutes we finally came to the gates of the Sovietgames pioneer camp. I collapsed down the curb and buried my face in my hands. I didn't feel scared. In fact, I didn't feel any emotions at all. Just the fatigue and the void inside of me. But how? Mumbled Router. No idea. Besides, what is the difference anyway? It's not like this is any stranger than anything else that happened to me in the last few days. I looked up at him, feeling exhausted. Router's lips were trembling, an expression of deathly horror was plastered on his face. Let's go back and fetch the girls. I didn't wait for him and just shuffled off back to where we left them. Found anything? Asked Masha, chewing on some strawberries of uncertain origin. We did. A camp. What camp? She looked surprised. Our camp. What? Masha looked so silly now, so I couldn't help flashing an ironic smile. But you were going forward, not backward. Forward. And Sovietgames is there. Hey, stop joking, she exclaimed. I am that serious. But, said Elisa quietly. She was sitting down on the grass and cradling the head of Lena, who was still sleeping. Yeah, just like that. I said tiredly and dropped down on the ground. Okay, it means we're heading there. I looked at Masha keenly and suddenly realized that I can't wait anymore. Hey, what is happening with you? What do you mean? A look screamed that now isn't the time for breezy chatter. You were scared to death yesterday, yet today you have the "this happens to me all the time" attitude. But what's the point in panicking? She is right, actually. Still, it's a bit strange. I see where Semyon, or whoever he is coming from. She cracked a barely visible smile. If I didn't know you... I went quiet, bit my lip, and turned away. But really, do I know her that well? Sure, we spent so many years together, but if you get down to it, I always thought more about myself. Or rather, I always believed that she was completely satisfied. And she was always the same to me. The same at just about anything, even when we were breaking up. As if she wasn't a real person, just my favorite article of clothing. Thinking about it, I have no idea what's going on in her soul. I just never cared about it. Thus, her behaving like this under these circumstances doesn't seem more bizarre than anything else that is happening to us. And if you think about the talk at the beach 2 evenings ago, she probably really is stronger than me. Hey, are you listening to me at all? Oh, sorry, I got carried away. So much has happened. She looked at me sternly. Let's get going to the camp. Or wherever you were, if that is the same old camp. All right. In fact, it's not like we had any other choice. A few more hours in this scorching heat would only yield more casualties. But we have to carry her along. Yes, just a second. Let me figure it out. I found 2 fairly long sturdy sticks in the nearby grove. Coming back, I ordered Router to take his shirt off. He tried to object, but soon enough he realized that there was no use in arguing. Achoo! Yeah, excuse me. I took off my shirt as well, and we made a sort of stretcher, attaching the fabric to the poles. Will it hold? Probably not in real life. Masha gave our device a questioning look, but ultimately gave it a few strong pulls, ensuring its strength, and smiled. It will. At least until we reach the camp. It was hard to go in the seat, but it was even harder to carry the injured, that is, Lena. Several times I almost fainted and barely caught myself halfway to the ground. Rauta felt even worse. Both Masha and Elisa were swapping places with him every now and then. But suddenly you are strong and can carry everybody. Still, my pride won't allow me to ask them to carry Lena even for a minute. Sure, it's silly to act like this under these circumstances, but I couldn't help myself. Yeah, it's really stupid in this case. This is yet another flaw in my personality, along with coldness, inattentiveness to the others, even my loved ones, and other less than noble traits. Finally, we somehow made it to the camp gates, and I collapsed to the grass in the shadow of the unknown pioneer statue, completely worn out. It actually is our camp? Masha lingered on the words. And indeed it looks the same. We have to carry her to a cabin, Elisa mentioned quietly. Yeah. I got up with considerable effort and prepared for the last run. The obvious choice was Olga's cabin, most likely because we managed to come through the last night here without any major problems. At least we are still alive, even though you slept, you motherfucker. Oh, maybe this is where Masha traded places. You know, real Masha and fake Masha. When he was asleep, you know. Something must have happened there. Why did the authors decide to make Semyon sleep if nothing happened? That makes no sense. Me and Rauta were sprawled exhausted on one bed, and the girls were undressing Lena on the other. Don't look, said Masha sternly. It's not there's anything worth looking at. I snorted and turned away, giving Rauta a harsh poke in the ribs, making him follow my lead. We're gonna get some water, and probably rummage through the canteen too. It's dangerous to go alone. Wanna come along? She grinned. No thanks. At least take the pipe with you, I said uncertainly. Do you really think that it will help? I sighed heavily and closed my eyes. Well, be careful then. You guys be careful. I don't trust, zombie Lena. The door closed after a second. You asleep? Rauta's whisper reached me. As if one could sleep here. All at once, I heard Lena moan from the other bed. She's zombie, I tell you. I sat up on my elbows and looked at her. Lena was tossing and turning under the blanket. Yeah. Suddenly she opened her eyes and abruptly turned to face me. Ah, told you. A devil's grin was frozen on her face. The same one I saw yesterday evening. Hard enough for ya, eh? She burst into laughter. I felt a shiver run down my spine. My ability to speak vanished. You. What? Asked Rauta through his sleep. I turned to him sharply. Look! I waved my hands, pointing at Lena's bed. What? He got up and looked where I was pointing first, then back at me. I turned and just saw Lena sleeping peacefully. Didn't you hear it? What? Lena was awake and said... Oh, it seems like you've got a sunstroke too. He turned towards the wall. I'm absolutely sure that I heard and saw it. Well, it could be true that the heat got to me at last, but it all seems to be exactly like that time. And it wasn't Lena. At the very least, it's not the Lena I knew. As if she's possessed by the devil. Well, maybe we finally get an explanation for that. I lay down and pulled a blanket over my head. I really wanted to sleep, but the realization that I might never wake up again if I fall asleep now was keeping me up and running. Yeah. Be careful with devil, Lena. I'm not sure how long I spent lying like that, trembling at every rustle, but eventually the door bursts open and steps resounded in the room. Zombies? No, people. I barely peered out from under the blanket and caught a glimpse of Elisa and Masha entering with a bucket of water and some bags. I see you went a bit cuckoo here. Yeah, sorta. I replied with a trembling voice, trying to flash a smile. Everything is okay? Seems like it. I glanced at Lena yet again, but she was still sleeping quietly. Maybe it was indeed just my imagination. Sure, given a condition of such extreme emotional stress and physical fatigue, I might be seeing things. Don't think so. But hey, I got up with considerable effort, took a cup from the table and scooped up some water. So, what are we doing next? I'll have to stay here for now. But Olga has called the police, muttered Elisa. Yeah, maybe they find a way through this loop. You know? Ha! Yeah, but everyone disappeared after that. In any case, until Lena comes to her senses. Although if I ever happen to see her like that again, I would frankly rather that she doesn't wake up. I told you, bury her on the side road. Alisa laid down on Lena's bed, and Masha sat down next to me. Get some sleep. She gently stroked the top of my head. Can you really sleep with all this happening? Well, keep guard. You look really tired. I guess she was right. Okay, but just a nap. Wake me up before evening. Don't trust her. She's evil. She didn't say a word, just smiled instead. You are really trustworthy for such a situation. Promise. I promise, replied Masha quietly. Maybe she will wake you by nibbling at your limbs. I closed my eyes and instantly tumbled into a dream. Here they come again, the grasshoppers. This time it's the king, a huge swamp-green monstrosity with really long curved legs, wings that would match the wingspan of a large airliner, and enormous pitch-black eyes. He was hanging over me, grinning and spluttering something really loud. I still didn't understand anything of their language, but judging by the tone, it wasn't anything nice that you would hear on the morning news. I wanted to get away, but he clutched me tightly with his wretched claw. Are morning news in Russia different? I don't hear that much good stuff on morning news in Germany. I could hear my bones cracking, feel my ribs breaking, piercing my internal organs with their sharp splinters. I felt hundreds of hammers smashing inside my skull. My vision faded, and the next moment, fountains of blood and flesh were spraying all over the place. I think she didn't, It seems like it's evening. Wasn't... Oh, did he say noon? Oh yeah, he said noon, isn't it? Well, then maybe Masha did not break her promise. We'll see. I jumped up in a cold sweat. My own scream still reverberated in the room. It took me several seconds to clear the dimness from my eyes. Sorry. My throat is really dry. I'm doing this all in one sitting because I really want to know what is happening. I looked around frantically and realized that it was evening already and it was completely dark outside. Good grief, we didn't turn off the light yesterday. Masha was lying asleep next to me, while Rauta was curled up on the floor. Lena was lying on the other bed, tightly wrapped in the blanket. Yet Alisa was nowhere to be seen. Lena devoured her. I didn't, to be honest. I guess it makes sense, because Alisa is the one. It's actually very horror movie-like. You know, Alisa, I don't know. Alisa was the one person I did not suspect at any point to be the culprit. So I guess it makes sense that she is now gone, that only crazy people are left. Although router or electronic or whatever is probably not that dangerous, I guess, at least. It's probably either Masha or Lena. Probably Lena, I guess. Or maybe they are both just, I don't know, already zombies and tools of the puppet master. Hey! I woke up Masha with a few rough prods. What? She slowly came to her senses. Didn't I ask you? Sorry, I fell asleep. Oh no, I was right. Okay. She had such a guilty expression on her face that I felt sick. I shouldn't have relied on her. At least I could have set up an alarm. I woke Rauta up. Where's Alisa? I don't know, said Masha worriedly. Well, who does know? We were all asleep. Well, she was sleeping here and then... Her eyes darted around guilty. And then you fell asleep. She hung her head and let out a heavy sigh. Oh, perfect! Just perfect! I pounded my fist on the table, making Masha jump. Okay, you sit here and we'll go and find her. Alone? Her face suddenly took on an expression of fright. Alone? Was it you who told me that it's not worth panicking? Yeah, but it's not... Oh, fine, I'll go alone. But... Or do you really want to sit here with only Lena? Masha kept silent. It's dangerous to go alone. I noticed that Router seemed to have fully awakened. And it's not dangerous for her to sit here all alone? I felt that there was no point in arguing, so I got up, grabbed my trusty pipe, and headed for the door. In any case, given that people have been disappearing into thin air, one can't feel safe anywhere or in any camp. I would never... Also, Semyon is not realizing they could, now that they are alone, they could start any kind of evil plan against him. They say, hey, Semyon said Lena was looking at him with a devilish grin. I think he's going crazy. Let's make him disappear, you know what I mean? You know, that is totally possible. This is a not normal situation. Humans freak out. We know that. By now, we know that. He's totally... Never leave all people alone. It is never a good idea. Make sure that you have an alliance of some sort with someone. The most normal person. That was Elisa, now she's gone. Well, what can you do? Of course, it still could turn out that Elisa just went somewhere. To the toilet, for example. But I suppose you will meet her now as a zombie, I guess. Maybe, Phil. Maybe not. Maybe someone else. We'll see. Although, given how frightened she looked, I guess she would have woken up Masha, or just have held it till tomorrow. Damn. Anything but going all alone through the camp. I braced myself, pulled the handle, and went outside. I swept my eyes across the landscape and then... Ah! That was easier than expected. I saw Elisa, hanging high above the ground from the tree right in front of the cabin. You know, this is sad. Not sad for Elisa. I mean, it is also sad for Elisa. Also, is there still lying Slavia's head, or is this a boulder? I think this is a boulder. Now they built up so much tension, you know, and all the time, for hours now. Like since the last time something happened, they built tension for nearly hours. And then he just opens the door and he already sees this. Now they need to get me back into it. But he wanders slowly along and suddenly phew, something comes out of nowhere. Not he leaves the room, whoop, everything presented to him. How am I supposed to be scared? Nah. I saw Elisa hanging high above the ground from the tree right in front of the cabin. A sharp pain pierced my temples and I collapsed to the ground. The horror was so overwhelming that I literally felt my whole body being bound in steel chains. Blinded with fear, I barely managed to crawl back into the cabin and close the door. What happened? Masha rushed over to me. Don't look. I grasped her arm. Don't go outside. What is the matter? She reached out for the door handle. I attempted to stop her, but I was so weak that I could only let out a groan of despair. Opening the door, Masha screamed and froze in her tracks. Gathering my last ounces of strength, I got up and kicked the door shut. The next moment, Masha fainted and fell back into my arms. I carried her to the bed and put down next to the shaking Router. His face told me that he is definitely not interested in knowing what happened there. All these screams woke Lena up. She rose slightly in her bed and gave us a glance. What is happening? She asked in a whisper. I didn't know how I should reply. I felt a scream rising up in my throat, but I managed to muffle it to a hollow sigh. Lena was horrified, but she still didn't realize what exactly had happened here. Don't go outside, I moaned. Unlike Masha, she wasn't one to argue. An oppressive silence ensued. Even the grasshoppers seemed to quiet down in order to add suspense to the situation. Masha was still lying on my lap. Router was quivering in the corner of the bed, and Lena was sitting in front of me with an expression of doom and despair on her face. I stared at the door with an unblinking gaze, waiting for the moment it would burst open and... My fear couldn't manifest in any concrete form. A homicidal maniac, a monster, an alien. It was the horror of the unknowable, darkness and emptiness, I wasn't afraid that I would be torn to pieces, just like Slavia. Or I would become a zombie, like Ulyana. I was afraid to disappear, vanish without a trace from this world. Masha let out a quiet moan. I just had such a nightmare. It wasn't a dream. She opened her eyes wide and looked at me with horror. Then, there... Don't look, I shouted and hastily embraced her. Lena started crying loudly, ran up and pressed herself against me, trembling all over. Still don't trust you, lady. You're a demon. My God, someone has to count how many times I said this now. And by someone, I mean nobody. Don't even bother doing that. But I probably said that like 9 times just this episode. Still, it is a feel from deep inside me. Also from dark inside me. My dark half wants to bury her still. Long minutes dragged on in agonizing silence. So, what are we going to do now? Asked Masha through her tears. She didn't seem so self-confident now, although we were all in the same situation. Time passed, yet nothing happened. We had to make a decision. I couldn't say that I came back to my senses after what I saw, but I still felt my mind clearing up a bit. I know one thing for certain. We cannot stay here. And it wasn't because it was more dangerous here than anywhere else. It's just because I can't endure staying near the corpse of Alisa. I bet it's even more of a gut-wrenching experience for the girls. We have to go, I said quietly. I felt Masha and Lena hugging me even tighter. We have to. Router stopped shaking and left the bed. How are you feeling? I asked Lena. She said nothing. Can you walk? Probably. I gently escaped their embraces and got up. We have to run. At night it will be easier to go. But Masha tried to make a humble objection. Yeah, I know that we decided to stay, but now we have to get out of here. I turned to Router. You do realize that they shouldn't see all that? He gave a barely visible nod. Although Router didn't know what happened to Alisa, it was obvious that his vivid imagination had conjured up so many gruesome theories during this time that he was probably even more depressed than me. Okay, we're gonna hold hands and go. I'll go first and lead the way. Masha goes next, then Lena, then you. I looked at the girls. They were sitting with their heads hanging down, sobbing quietly. Ready? But where do you go? That is actually important to decide, though. Nobody replied. This was obviously a useless question. One can never be ready for such a situation. I took Masha's hand, turned around and gave Lena and Router a serious look. Okay, now shut your eyes and don't open them. No matter what you got that? Yeah. Lena nodded. I steeled myself, burst open the door and went out, holding Masha's hand. Watch out for the steps. When we made our way outside, I darted a final glance at Alisa. What I saw now didn't send me sprawling on the ground. Although my heart was racing frenetically, I was feeling sick and dizzy, and my stomach turned. She was hanging about 5 meters above the ground. That is not true. That is definitely not true. Several neckerchiefs tied together on a string were tightened around her throat. That I actually can't see. Bulging eyes. Protruding tongue, putrefactions already at work on the body. It looked like she didn't die a couple of hours ago, but at least a couple of days. An expression of agony and inhuman suffering was permanently frozen on her face. It was clear that she couldn't have done such a thing on herself. My God, who came up with all this? Maybe we are in hell. I hastened my steps away from the diabolical scene, dragging the others along. I ordered them to open their eyes only when we reached the square. She's still there? Asked Masha, not letting go of my hand. I've just nodded. Who, Alisa? They had their eyes shut? How well. Lena cried out, all well and good. I know by now that Semyon has a pretty old school view of women, I got that. But still, running with your eyes closed, really? Lena cried out loud and burst into tears. Masha embraced her and tried to comfort her. What happened to her? Muttered Router with a faltering tongue. I bet you don't want to know that. For a while I just stood there and looked at the moon. Lena was sobbing, Router was pacing in circles around us, and Masha sat down the bench and buried her face in her hands. "Okay, it's time," I said quietly, yet nobody moved. "We cannot stay here." I walked to Masha, leaned over and took her hand. She raised her eyes, filled with tears, at me and nodded. We slowly proceeded to the bus stop. Night has fallen on the camp. Along the way, I noticed that the grasshoppers were almost quiet. Keeping silent for some time, now they resumed their nasty song, but this time it was much quieter and, I might say, a little bit more respectful. The daytime progressive noise changed to a nocturne for violin and orchestra. Is there any chance they are conscious about what's going on here? Of course, if we assume that there are grasshoppers in hell, too. We came to the bus stop and stopped hesitating. "So, where are we going?" asked Masha, wiping her tears. "Okay, we already tried going to the right. Let's go to the left." "But there's no town there." "And just a couple of days ago there was no camp to the right." "Maybe we shouldn't," Lena sobbed quietly. "We have no choice. I won't stay here any longer." We were just about to get moving when we heard noises approaching us from far away. I strained my eyes and caught a glimpse of someone coming here down the road, probably Alisa. "A bus, huh?" "What? A bus?" exclaimed Rauta with joy in his voice. "Shut up, you fool! It is not a bus. People are approaching." "Oh, really?" I hissed at him. "Lots of people. Oh, now is the zombie apocalypse," said Masha anxiously. It was utterly clear that we shouldn't stay here any longer. I turned around and saw someone approaching us down the road from the other direction, too. The noise was getting louder. The chirping of grasshoppers, although not their usual one, a much louder, distorted version, as if it had been passed through a guitar amplifier. "Run!" I shouted, but nobody moved. "Ah, screw it!" I grabbed Masha's and Lena's hands and darted off back into the camp. The girls were floundering in a stupor, so I ended up literally dragging them along. Having dashed to the square, I stopped to catch some breath, and only then did I realize that Rauta had been left behind. "We have to go back to get him!" Masha screamed and shifted towards the bus stop. "Are you nuts?" I pulled her hand and forced her to stop. "You want us all to meet the same fate?" Lena was trembling so wildly that I felt my right hand shaking as it held hers. "Keep running." "Where to?" "Don't know, into the woods." Returning to Olga's cabin wasn't an option. My self-preservation instinct also suggested that we shouldn't stay in an open area as well. We dashed towards the woods, which is probably not much safer, but hey, maybe they get now to the mines or something. To the old camp. I held girls' hands tightly. There are so many mistakes in this route. It's strange. It was so well proofreading up till now. Oh well. I mean, it's not like I really care that much. Also, I'm probably taking out the drama out of the situation, I guess. I held the girls' hands tightly. They ran with difficulty, especially Lena, who was swaying and weaving. She fell a few times, but I quickly picked her up, spurring her on with shouts, and dragged her on. Passing through the trees was the hardest part. Though the full moon was shining up in the sky, in the dark I was still constantly running into snags, branches, falling into pits. Nettles were slashing my legs, and leaves were hitting me in the face, leaving painful scratches. My heart was pounding heavily. Every breath I took whistled painfully in my lungs. The blood was pounding so heavily in my head that it seemed like my skull was ready to burst from the pressure at any moment. I stopped feeling my body. My legs carried me forward by themselves. At least we ran out into a clearing and stopped. Exhausted, the girls fell to the ground, and I sat on a fallen tree. Who were they? People or demons? Or something else? Hey, you didn't show them to me, I can tell you. And where was that chirping sound coming from? Probably from an amplifier from an electric guitar. I couldn't make them out in the twilight, but that was probably for the best. After I slightly recovered my senses, I walked up to the girls. Lena was lying dead white on the ground. Seems like she had completely lost it. Masha was sitting, hugging her knees and rocking from side to side. "We've got to do something," I said as I sat near her. "It's too late, we're gonna die," she whispered in a hollow voice. "We are still alive. That means there is still hope." "No, there's nothing, no. It's all over." I put my arms around her and held her tight. No, it is not. I sat, staring into the darkness of the forest. The grasshoppers could barely be heard now. If not for Masha's labored breathing, I would think I was dead. Okay, before we do this now, and they coming to the senses, and maybe going to the abandoned pioneer camp in the next episode, I don't know, but I'm still pretty convinced, I mean it would make sense at least. We'll make a cut here. Wow! I was told in the comments that this was actually meant to be a DLC, and I see now why. This is long. I thought this would be like, I don't know, 2 episodes. I think this is now the 4th I'm doing on this, and there is no end to see. Well, anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Come back for the next part, and I'll see you then. Bye bye!